This also does not fall under the purview of ME, and Anderson, and Arman explicitly mark it as something to be set aside by their own endeavors. Although the question of whether intelligent machines should have moral standing, Susan Lee Anderson writes in another article, appears to loom on the horizon, ME deliberately and explicitly pushes this issue to the margins, leaving it for others to consider. Here we can perceive how that which is marginalized appears. It makes an appearance in the text only insofar as it is set aside and not given further consideration. It appears, as Derrida describes it, by way of the trace of its erasure. This setting aside or exclusion leaves a residue in the text, a mark in the text of something being excluded from the text that remains legible and can be read. A similar decision is deployed in Wendell Wallach and Colin Allen's Moral Machines, and is clearly evident in their choice of the term artificial moral agent, or AMA, as the protagonist of the analysis. This term immediately focuses attention on the question of responsibility. Despite this exclusive concern, however, Wallach and Allen do eventually give brief consideration to the issue of rights. Extending the concept of legal responsibility to AMAs is, in Wallach and Allen's opinion, something of a no-brainer. The question whether there are barriers to designating intelligent systems legally accountable for their actions has captured the attention of a small but growing community of scholars. They generally concur that the law, as it exists, can accommodate the advent of intelligent robots. A vast body of law already exists for attributing legal personhood to non-human entities, corporations. No radical changes in the law would be required to extend the status of legal person to machines with higher-order facilities, presuming that the robots were recognized as responsible agents. According to Wallach and Allen's estimations, a decision concerning the legal status of AMAs should not pose any significant problems. Most scholars, they argue, already recognize that this is adequately anticipated by and already has a suitable precedent in available legal and judicial practices, especially as it relates to the corporation. What is a problem in their eyes is the flip side of legal responsibility, the question of rights. From a legal standpoint, Wallach and Allen continue, the more difficult question concerns the rights that might be conferred on an intelligent system. When or if future artificial moral agents should acquire legal status of any kind, the question of their legal rights will also arise. Although noting the possibility and importance of the question, at least as it would be characterized in legal terms, they do not pursue its consequences very far. In fact, they mention it only to defer it to another kind of question, a kind of investigative bait-and-switch. Whether or not the legal ins and outs of personhood can be sorted out, more immediate and practical for engineers and regulators is the need to evaluate AMA performance. Consequently, Wallach and Allen conclude Moral Machines by briefly gesturing in the direction of a consideration of robot rights, only to refer this question back to the issue of agency and performance measurement. In this way, then, they briefly address the rights question, only to immediately recoil from the complications it entails, namely, the persistent philosophical problem of having to sort out the legal ins and outs of personhood. Although not simply passing over the question of robot rights in silence, Wallach and Allen, like Anderson and others, only mention it in order to postpone or otherwise exclude the issue from further consideration. In other cases, the exclusion is not even explicitly marked or justified. It is simply declared and enacted. The Huron Robo-Ethics Roundup, for instance, does not have anything to say, not even a negative exclusion about the social standing or rights of robots. The Jue Xuan Weng Chen Sun Chen and Juan Tsai Sun report.